It's 8:47 local time on the 14th of November 2025, 47 nautical miles southeast of Miami, U.S. Undersea sensors on the East Coast suddenly light up with one clear heavy contact. A submarine is moving slowly but steadily toward busy shipping lanes. In the operations center, alarms punch through the quiet. Coffee spills, chairs scrape, sailors rush to their stations. On the big screen, data scrolls in. Speed 8 knots. Estimated displacement around 7,000 tons. Acoustic profile matching a Chinese Type 93 amperes nuclear attack sub. Far below the surface, USS Virginia turns to intercept. Overhead, a 8 amperes Poseidon banks into a wide circle, dropping sonobuoys like a net. The order is simple but loaded with risk. Track the intruder, challenge it, and be ready if it refuses to comply. One wrong move here could turn a tense standoff into the first lethal clash between U.S. and Chinese submarines off the American coast. Everyone feels it. In the waters southeast of Miami, cargo ships move through lanes that feed everything from fuel to groceries into American life. It's a quiet flow that most people never think about until something threatens it. Today, that threat is a Chinese Type 93 amperes nuclear attack submarine pushing far closer than any U.S. commander expects. For the crew of USS Virginia, the mission is simple on paper. Protect the lane, hold the line, and stop an intruder from slipping any closer to the coast. But the stakes go far beyond one submarine. If the U.S. fails to respond, insurance spikes, ports slow down, and allies start doubting America's ability to secure its own backyard. If the response is too strong, the situation could erupt into something neither side wants: an open clash between two nuclear-armed powers. Every sailor knows this isn't just a technical intercept. It's a moment that could reshape trust, trade, and the balance of power along the entire Atlantic coast. Above them, the 8 amperes Poseidon keeps a steady circle, feeding fresh sonar updates through the net of sonobuoys. On the shore, SOSUS operators patch real-time acoustic data into the mission channel. Slowly, the picture sharpens. The Chinese sub isn't drifting by accident. It's holding depth, holding course, and ignoring repeated calls to surface. That silence is its own message, a message the U.S. can't afford to misread. And because moments like this divide opinions, the captain's tension mirrors the audience's. Is this hostile intent or a dangerous misunderstanding? If you're watching, press 1 if you think the sub is testing U.S. resolve, or 9 if you believe it's a deliberate provocation pushing toward conflict. 8:53. 6 minutes after the first detection, the tension breaks. USS Virginia's sonar team reports a sharp change in the Chinese submarine's signature small course corrections. Tiny shifts in speed, the kind of movements a trained crew makes when they know they're being tracked. To the Americans, this isn't random noise. It's preparation. A new ping ripples across the water as the 8 amperes Poseidon drops another line of sonobuoys, tightening the net. Each buoy feeds real-time data straight into Virginia's combat system, giving the commander a clearer view of the contact's depth and angle. The picture that emerges is worse than expected. The Type 93 amperes is drifting toward a position that could let it slip beneath commercial traffic and mask its noise in the churn of engines above. The commander reacts fast. USS Virginia launches its first asset, a tightly controlled burst from its active sonar. It's loud, unmistakable, and sends a direct message across the deep. You're seen, and you're boxed in. The move buys precious seconds, because an active ping forces any submarine to decide whether to break off, hide, or prepare for a fight. Almost immediately, the second asset fires. A tactical maneuver that angles Virginia into a flanking position, cutting off the Chinese sub's path to deeper water. On the radio, the Poseidon crew confirms the contact is still ignoring U.S. orders to surface. Worse, they catch a faint shift in bearing that suggests the Type 93 amperes may be preparing to bring its torpedo tubes into a more favorable angle. Every movement is now coordinated with the East Coast hydrophone network. Operators onshore feed in subtle acoustic cues, tiny metallic clicks, the hum of pumps, a brief tremor in the propeller note. To a trained ear, these are signs of a submarine transitioning from travel mode to combat readiness. The commander doesn't wait for certainty. He orders a defensive posture, knowing that hesitation is how submarines disappear. Inside the control room, nobody raises their voice. Sailors lean over consoles, headsets pressed tight, eyes locked on the glowing contact creeping across the screen. Each update nudges the two submarines closer to a decision point, and everyone understands that once weapons leave their tubes, there will be no way to pull this encounter back. 9-1. The hunt tightens. The Chinese Type 93 Amperes shifts again, this time with a sharper turn that sends a low rumble through USS Virginia's sonar displays. It's a deliberate move, the kind a crew makes when testing how close they can push before forcing a reaction. The pressure inside the control room rises fast. Moments later, several faint acoustic traces slip into the edge of detection. They're small, fast, and irregular, likely unmanned underwater drones deployed as decoys. Some drift wide, others dart inward, built to confuse tracking systems. The Poseidon crew calls out updates as the drones scatter through the water, and Virginia's computers race to filter real threats from noise. Virginia adjusts course by a few degrees. It's subtle but meaningful, reducing the sub's profile and tightening defensive angles. Sailors secure stations and watch the screens with steady focus, knowing the Chinese sub could use the drone swarm to mask a real strike. Underwater combat is quiet, but unforgiving. Systems ping and pulse through the dark, searching for the faintest hint of danger. The hydrophone network sends new data. 2 drones have moved into positions that could hide a torpedo launch. Virginia's defensive software flags the risk instantly. The commander responds without hesitation. He authorizes a countermeasure, spread bursts of noise and false echoes designed to disrupt any tracking. Small detonations pop through the water, pushing back part of the swarm. Some drones veer off, but others keep closing, forcing sailors to track them manually. Every update feels like a step closer to a line neither side can cross safely. Inside the control room, the tension settles like weight. No raised voices, just controlled breathing and steady hands on consoles. Everyone knows this phase is the most dangerous. The moment before weapons fire, when one wrong interpretation can start a fight no one can stop. The commander scans the latest sonar return. The Type 93 Amperes is still silent, still holding course, still refusing to surface. With drones pressing in and the enemy sub positioned for advantage, one fact becomes impossible to ignore. If Virginia's defense falters now, the next sound won't be noise or decoys, it will be a torpedo cutting through the dark. 9-7. Just as the crew thinks the pressure can't rise further, a twist slams into the sonar screen. A new signature appears small, fast, riding just above the thermocline. It's not the Type 93 Amperes. It's a secondary platform the Americans didn't anticipate. The Poseidon crew identifies it first. A high-speed unmanned vehicle, likely launched before the drone swarm scattered the water. It slices across the ocean with purpose, built to close distance faster than a submarine can reposition. Its acoustic footprint is so thin it almost disappears between sweeps, making it the kind of threat that slips through layered defenses. Inside Virginia, the commander calls for their third asset. The submarine shifts into combat rhythm as sailors run checks and brace for rapid maneuvering. A small, fast craft changes everything it can reach attack range before the main sub even reveals intent. The hydrophone network feeds new data. The object is accelerating. At this pace, it will be within striking distance in minutes. The crew stiffens. They've seen this tactic before. On exercises, the enemy distracts with drones, stays silent with the main sub, then sends in one hard-to-track weapon to force a reaction. Virginia rolls 5 degrees and increases speed, tightening its turn to build a cleaner intercept angle. The hull strains under the maneuver, but sensors lock onto the incoming craft clearly enough to act. A burst from the third asset launches into the dark, fast, tight, built for threats that don't allow hesitation. The room holds still as seconds drag. Then a sharp echo returns. Contact achieved. But relief doesn't follow. The Type 93 Amperes remains silent, holding position, watching from the deep. And the Americans recognize the message. Deploying a high-speed drone means the Chinese sub arrived prepared for escalation, not by mistake. 9-12. The ocean turns into a knife-edge arena. The Type 93 Amperes finally moves just a few degrees, but enough for everyone aboard Virginia to understand what's coming next. The Chinese sub is lining up for its best firing angle. No more drones, no more silence. Virginia shifts into full combat maneuvering. The submarine banks hard, water pressure groaning along the hull as the crew braces for close engagement. In the sonar room, the contact brightens into a clear, aggressive posture. The Type 93 Amperes is pushing in. The commander calls for the third asset again, readying it for direct defense. Seconds stretch thin. The Poseidon overhead tightens its orbit and feeds fresh sonar pings, each one bouncing off the enemy hull with stark clarity. The ocean feels smaller, tighter, as the two nuclear-powered subs close distance at a speed that leaves no time for debate. A sudden spike hits the sonar, an unmistakable acoustic flare. The Chinese sub has armed its tubes. Virginia reacts instantly. The third asset fires in a clean, controlled burst designed for point-blank threats. The submarine shakes as the shot leaves its launcher, the kind of tremor every sailor recognizes as the threshold between survival and loss. The water around them erupts with overlapping echoes, returns, counter-returns, and the rising howl of mechanical movement. Then, the worst sign appears. A single sharp trace sprinting across the screen. Something fast, something hostile. The room snaps into action as the CIWS-style defensive protocols spool up underwater, sending out a final curtain of countermeasures. Bursts detonate through the dark, scattering noise and metal fragments in a desperate attempt to break the incoming lock. For a breathless moment, no one knows if it worked. Then the sonar shows it a hard, sudden bloom of static, where the threat used to be. The incoming shot is gone. The ocean steadies. The crew lets out a controlled exhale. The Chinese sub drifts, beaten back by seconds, not miles. And in that tension, the narrator's voice cuts through the moment for viewers. If you were in the commander's seat right now, would you hold fire or strike first? Press 1 to hold the line. Press 9 to hit before the enemy does. The ocean settles into a tense, uneasy quiet. USS Virginia holds position, its crew steadying their breathing as the sonar picture clears. The Chinese Type 93 Amperes, once pushing forward with confidence, has slipped back into a defensive posture, damaged, shaken, or simply reconsidering the fight. For now, the clash stops just short of the point of no return. The commander orders a cautious track, keeping sensors locked, but weapons cold. Above them, the Poseidon continues its tight circle, watching for any sign the Chinese sub might re-engage. Nothing comes. The Type 93 Amperes slowly turns away, gliding east, leaving behind a trail of disturbed water and a crew that knows how close they came to the worst-case scenario. Result: Virginia survives, the lane remains open, and the United States gains a sharp reminder that near its own shores, the margin between peace and conflict can vanish in seconds. This engagement proves American defenses work, but it also proves the opponent is adapting fast. Cheap autonomous systems, silent approaches, and unpredictable timing force the U.S. to spend more, move quicker, and make decisions under crushing pressure. Allies watching the data feed will see resolve, but they'll also see how thin the line is. One misread signal and the night could have ended with debris on the seabed and headlines rewriting the balance of power. The Chinese sub's withdrawal doesn't guarantee stability. It only buys time before the next test. As the crew resets systems and the ocean calms, the narrator leaves viewers with one last question. If moments like this keep escalating, should the U.S. take a harder stance or continue holding the line? Press 1 if you believe restraint keeps the peace, or 9 if you think stronger action is the only way forward. Tonight, Virginia held the Atlantic open. But what happens when the next wave involves more drones, more silence, and an opponent who refuses to back down? That's what we uncover in the next episode.